up, YouTube? Topaz Yates back for another requested review, and this one is to that J-Mix and Taylor Olin Chicken Noodle Trap for the Soul. And overall, you guys have a lot of work to go before you can reach the level of quality MCs and such, man. But the one thing that I will say that you guys got going for each other is each other. Because here's the thing about me, man. I was once a rapper, and I once did solo work. I once did work with groups. See, the times where I was able to improve the fastest is when I was dealing with a group, in which that individual group was just a selection of few people who actually wanted to push hard to become better as well. Like when you find somebody who's right there on your wavelength that wants to push harder just like you, then you both will push each other and become better so much faster than what you'll do on your own. It's all in your desire and it's all in your chemistry, in which I see some pretty solid chemistry here. Like you guys do bounce things off of each other as you continue to try to progress here. But the thing is, if you want to be better bad enough, then you both will push each other. Like you will go home, you will write these rhymes, then you'll hop on the phone and you'll recite these rhymes to each other. You'll start to give each other competition and keep pushing each other to get better. In which that's the beautiful thing about groups, man, and that's something that a lot of people really don't understand. Instead, today in the music industry, man, these so-called groups out here, all it is just a bunch of individuals just laying down one particular verse and just going on with their life. And that's why groups really ain't been the same. So since you guys are a group, you guys definitely need to push each other to get better, man. And the things that you need to focus on to get better is your core fundamentals of lyrics, flow, and delivery. See, lyrics is very important here, man. Even though this is going to take a long time for you guys to do. I mean, for the most part, I tell people it takes like 10 years to become a quality lyricist and all that. But if you got somebody pushing you, it can be much shorter than that. But it's definitely important for you guys because of the types of songs that you like to go out and record. And which we're going to break down individual songs a little later and such, man. But for the most part, the types of songs you guys like to do is you just like to hop on the track and just spit. Like no core concept, even though there should be and such, man. But yet in the end, that's what you like to do. So if you're going to go in that direction, you need something to have people intrigued about what you're talking about. And that's where your lyricism comes into play, dude. And that's something that you guys are strongly lacking on the entire project. So in order to become a better lyricist, you got to break down the tools in which you got to use, man. And you use these tools to get better punchlines. And which, what are these tools? Metaphors, wordplay, vocab, man. You get good at all of these, your punchlines will become more potent. Now, what are metaphors, man? Metaphors are using something that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but yet use that to explain what you're talking about. And I do this a bunch of times, like some of my favorite articles that I wrote in the past. I compared the underground rappers to Batman, which Batman has nothing to do with underground rappers, obviously, but yet the way I break it down, he definitely does. Like the way I talk about it is Batman goes out there every night, beat up criminals in order to get a name in his city. That's how he built up his buzz to the point that everybody know who he is. That's how the underground rapper needs to come up with that hard work every night. Now, wordplay is exactly what it sounds like, man. You want to play with your words in order to make it sound rather creative. Now, here's a bare basic example that I can give you from an underground artist that I listened to a long time ago, man. He once said, look, if you try me, I'll be slapping on your bitch ass. And later on tonight, I'll be slapping on your bitch ass. Notice he said the same exact phrase, the same exact way, but each time it meant something different. That means he's just playing with his words there, man. But you can do it however which way your imagination goes, but yet you gotta start thinking of this. Now, vocab is self-explanatory here, man, and you can look at guys like Eminem, because what Eminem did while he was young is he studied the dictionary. He started using all of these bigger words and stuff and started implementing it into his rhyme schemes in order for him to become a better lyricist. And you can do the same exact thing, but if you don't want to study the dictionary, you can just pay attention to the big words that people use and try to use that in your rhyme schemes and stuff as well. Now, the more you practice all of these things, man, and implement them into your rhyme schemes, the better you're going to become, the more potent your bars will actually end up being over time. But now let's talk about your flows, because what flow actually is how precisely you are spitting your lyrics on top of the beat, man, so that they do not clash. And that's one key thing that you guys are having a lot of issues with. Now, I personally believe you're having issues with this because you're going into the booth, man, with some pen and a pad, or maybe with your iPhone or something, man, and trying to recite these lyrics that you wrote beforehand. And that's not the right way to go about it. Like, if you're gonna go into the studio to record anything, all of your songs need to be already memorized to the point that you can hop in the booth and just focus on spitting them precisely on beat. And once you get that on point, then you can start focusing on your delivery, in which both of you guys are really struggling in this. You both definitely need to find your own voices, especially J Mix in particular. Because when I listen to you, J Mix, you remind me of artists that I've once known that only gets into the studio while intoxicated, man, in order to release music. And that quite honestly may be exactly what you're doing here. And the reason why this is a bad thing is because when you are intoxicated going in the studio and such, it takes away your ability to actually project. It takes away your ability to sound particular ways. It takes away your ability to actually mean what you say. See, the myth that goes around in the music industry is that being high or being drunk while recording is somehow makes you a better artist, but in fact what it does is emphasize the skill set that you already have, and you don't have the skill set necessary for these intoxicants in order to push you to a higher level. Instead, you come off sounding like a super monotone type artist that can't project himself to being angry, who can't project himself to being sad. And there are certain songs on this where you got to display that range in order to get people to feel what you're saying, but yet you just can't do it. And that's why you got to come to the lab sober, focused, and ready to go with lyrics memorized, man, so you guys can maximize the time in which you're spending money on, because studio time costs. While Taylor, you got to find your own voice too, because in comparison to a lot of the female rappers that I listen to on a daily basis, you do not sound that different. Like, you have a bit more confidence in what you're saying here, but yet in the end, there's a long ways to go for both of y'all. See, you got to memorize your lyrics and actually believe, man. You got to actually say it like you believe it, so you can get other people to believe in what you're saying. Yes, it's going to take time to improve on all of this, but these are your core fundamentals, man, in which you can't be a great artist without these. But let's go ahead and break down this project here, where it's ultimately trap music for the youth and such, man. And I do feel as though there is a lane for you guys to be successful, because there's not very many groups out there in trap music to begin with, and second, there's none that I can think of that's male and female. So you guys definitely have something here that can become something, but it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of promotion. So let's start with that intro YB. See, that super trap energy feel that you got on this, man, that shows that you guys got a pretty decent ear for music selection, man. It definitely is a plus as you set this project off with this one here. But one thing I did want to touch on is how you guys slowed it down and sped it back up for the features verse and all of that, man. And you know, that sounds like it's something different, unique, but people have been doing that before, but nobody has actually done it right, and you guys haven't done it right either. But there's a reason why most people haven't been able to do it, because when you drastically change the tempo like that in a song, man, then it messes up the entire flow of the song. And quite honestly, there's the potential there for someone to do it right, but yet it's a very difficult thing to try to accomplish. Now, that Tonight's the Night was actually pretty decent. I mean, it shows off your versatility there as you both try to delve into a little bit of singing. And I'm not here to tell you that you're phenomenal singers or anything like that, because nah. But looking at the music industry as we see today, man, people don't have to be amazing singers. You ultimately just have to set the tone of a song, and that's what you guys do. So I would say a pretty decent job there. But here's where the lyricism definitely comes into play. Basing off the hook and basing off the title and all that, then you're trying to say that tonight is something special. Something special is supposed to happen on this night in this particular song. But yet when you break down what you're talking about lyrically, you go completely against that, saying that it's not really anything special. This is a common night. That ultimately takes away any core substance that this song could have possibly had. Now let's look at that Money in the Bag joint, man, where that is another one of those super trap energy joints, and I definitely did enjoy that production by Jake Sand. But yet my problem with this is, one, it was a bad mix, because here's the way that a mix is supposed to work. Your lyrics are supposed to sit on top of everything, and the production is supposed to be underneath that. But on J Mix's verse in particular, man, it's sitting right there over top of the lyrics, dude. And that's a big mistake, especially looking at the way that you rhyme. You're rather difficult to understand to begin with, but if you're going to compete with your beat because the mix isn't right, it's not going to come off pretty well. Really, the only song that you guys stick to your concept is that Can't Be Broke song. And that's really what makes that actually rather solid, because what you're ultimately talking about is how you never want to be super broke and how you really can't make any moves because you ain't got no money and all of that, man. And that kind of struggle is going to tie you emotionally into your fan bases of the people that you're out there trying to reach. So that's pretty solid that you were able to stick on the topic there, but you need to make that more consistent. But one song in particular really sticks out here, and it's that In the Club, where it comes off as sort of like that Rihanna and Drake, that work joint, man, where you're trying to do a little bit of Caribbean dance hall feeling. Keep in mind, it's far from the actual thing, but that's the same kind of feeling that you're going for here. Now, that really just comes off as, okay, you're seeing this type of song being used over and over and over again on the radio, and this is the thing that people are listening to, something that people want to play in the club, so you decided to try your own hand at it. And you know, that's cool. I mean, it definitely shows off more versatility than what you guys can do. But yet in the end, by trying to make songs that everybody else is doing, you're inviting yourself to compete with other people as well. Like, that's another thing. You guys gotta step out into your own lane so you don't have to compete with people who are already established. And because they are already established, you will never be able to beat them at anything. You got to be yourselves, create your own unique music, man, so you can stand out amongst everyone. Now, in the end, a decent project that I recommend people to go ahead and peep out. I'm going to put the link to it in the description below. And I'm hoping you guys go ahead and peep them out and send them some constructive criticism to help them build up to be better MCs. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow me at Twitter up there. And you can go to downloadpads.com, that's down there, to read today's article.